Tensions have escalated over the past 48 hours, and that's something I put to the Minister of Defence of Pakistan, Khawaja Asif. He conceded Pakistan had funded terror organisations in the past, but said that was a mistake. He now issued a warning that the world should be worried by the threat of all-out war, and even suggested Donald Trump may have a role to play in de-escalating the row. All that to come, but first, here's his take on the terror attack.
The reaction which came from Delhi was not really surprising for us. We could make out that this whole thing was staged to create some sort of crisis in the region, particularly for us.
I'm just going to have to pick you up on that. When you say staged, what do you mean?
I personally and our government also in the last 2 days, we have condemned it categorically, without any reservation, that terrorism in all its forms is something which should be condemned as strongly as possible. This is something Pakistan has been victim of terrorism for decades, and perhaps no other country in the world has suffered so much from terrorism as Pakistan because of the wars in Afghanistan in the 80s, and then in the previous decade and decade before that. So we are very familiar the pain it inflicts on the people in the country and the nation when we are subjected to terrorism. But this sort of pattern which is going on in India, when President Clinton was there, there was a terrorist attack on Sikhs. 40 or 44 died in that, and it was blamed that some never heard of that organization which orchestrated this whole terrorist attack. This time again, the people who are being accused are not known, never heard of the organization.
You're
so
talking you're talking about an offshoot of Lashkar-e-Taiba, the resistance.
Lashkar-e-Taiba, let me tell you, Lashkar-e-Taiba is a name from the past. It is totally defunct. It does not exist. Let me tell you,
this organization, this group, the Resistance Front, is believed to be an offshoot of Lashkar-e-Taiba. But I just want to take you back to the point that you made a little earlier, sir, where you talked about, rightly, that Pakistan has been a victim of terrorism for decades. As you know, and as the world knows, that is correct. But the reason that India is pointing the blame on Pakistan is because Pakistan is also known to back, harbour, train and fund these terrorist organisations, namely the Taliban for years and groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba. So this is one of the reasons why the Trump administration in 2018 prevented any military aid from reaching Pakistan, because they said that Pakistan was continuing to play a double game. So this is one of the reasons why India has done this today. While you might not be overtly involved, the fact is that because of the ISIs, your intelligence agencies' backing of these terrorist organisations, that is why the finger of blame is now being pointed on Pakistan.
It is very convenient for the big powers to blame Pakistan for whatever is happening in this region. When we were fighting the war on their side, way back in the 80s against Soviet Union, all these terrorists of today, they were whining and dining in Washington, and then came the 9/11 attacks. Again, the same situation was repeated. I think our governments then made a mistake.
When you say you made a mistake, do you mean in backing and supporting terrorist organizations and using them as proxies?
No, they were being used as proxy by United States also. They were actually these Talibans, or before that, the people who were who visited Washington, and they were treated like VIPs in those days. They're all mixed up. They're not multiple organizations. They're just one single organization, religiously organized, and with different faces, different leadership. At times they work together, at times they fight with each other. So it's a long discussion. I don't want to get into that.
But just
let
to
me.
but just to talk about the incident in Kashmir, sir, India is pointing the finger of blame at Pakistan. They do say that they will retaliate. Are you concerned that retaliation will be in the form of airstrikes, which could escalate?
This has happened before also, Pulwama, which will later prove to be a false flag operation. And it was confirmed by the Indian media, Indian sources that it was a false flag operation. Pakistan had nothing to do with Pulwama. There was an air raid.
Are you saying that this incident was, when you say false flag?
Let me complete my sentence, and then you can ask me anything you want. And later on, when they attacked Pakistan after Pulwama, we downed their fighter, and ultimately we, as a goodwill gesture, we returned the pilot to them, and the things ultimately, cooled down. This time again, they are repeating the same thing. An incident took place in occupied Kashmir, and they are blaming us for that. And our media has never heard the organization they are mentioning behind this attack in Kashmir day before yesterday.
Are you worried?
No, we are not worried. If it comes to a fight, if India attacks us, we'll retaliate in kind. There's absolutely no doubt in our minds. It has happened before.
Just to be clear, sir, when you say false flag, when you say staged, are you blaming India for this attack that took place in Kashmir?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They create these situations.
What evidence are you?
Let me just take 30 seconds. Are you aware of Modi's history? What he did in Gujarat when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat? He killed 2,200.
Yes, we are, and we've interrogated that. I don't want to go into the history of Prime Minister Modi, but what I want to do is focus on this situation.
The present from history?
The reason India is blaming Pakistan is because they believe, and the United States has long believed, and that was one of the reasons why they pulled military funding from your country, is because Pakistan, its intelligence agencies, fund and back these terrorist organizations. That's why they're blaming you. You are now saying that this was staged by India based on what evidence?
They never came up for any evidence for these incidents in Kashmir. Any evidence. Till now, they have in the last 10, 15 years, 3, 4 incidents have taken place, but they never came up with any evidence. Just to blame Pakistan for something and create a situation for their own advantage. That doesn't mean that Pakistan is because Lashkar-e-Taiba in the past had some linkages in Pakistan. That doesn't mean that
what evidence do you now have that India staged this? Because
we have nothing to do with we have nothing to. There is no Lashkar-e-Taiba does not exist in Pakistan anymore. It is extinct. It is extinct. How can
this is an offshoot known, and they have claimed responsibility. The resistance front.
But my dear, if the parent organization does not exist, how can the offshoot take birth here?
Well, that's what you say. That's what you say. The Indians, their intelligence agencies, the United States is often pointed the finger
our intelligence agencies, they say otherwise. They said it's all staged. It was staged in Pulwama also, and we were proved correct then. And India did not pursue that after the air attack, and their plane was downed, and we returned there. The things cooled down then, and now again the same thing is.
You do admit, sir, that Pakistan has had a long history of backing and supporting and training and funding these terrorist organizations.
Well, we have been doing this dirty work for the United States for about 3 decades, and West, including Britain.
So that's your argument that even though
no, that was a mistake, and we suffered for that, and that is why you are saying this to me. If we had not joined the war against Soviet Union and later on the war after 9/11, this Pakistan's track record, was not, unimpeachable track record.
Defence Minister, I just want to get back to this particular incident in Kashmir and the noises that are now coming out of Delhi. Do you believe this situation is going to escalate and that India will launch airstrikes? Is Pakistan preparing itself for that?
We are already prepared for it, We are already prepared for it. Any eventuality which takes place in next 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 days or week or 10 days, we'll retaliate and we'll react to that, in kind, inshallah.
How will you respond if India does launch a series of airstrikes?
We will measure our response to whatever is initiated by India according to that. It would be a measured response. If there is an all-out, attack or something like that, then obviously there will be an all-out war. And if it is something...
And that's what I wanted to get to. We're talking about 2 nuclear powers. Should the world be worried about this moment?
Yes, I think so. The clash between 2 nuclear powers is always worrisome.
Are you expecting then all-out war? And how do you think the world should react and respond?
I think the world, the attitude which has been adopted by India over the years repeatedly, especially since the takeover by BJP, the power in Delhi, these things are taking place with quite frequency, So this is something which world should be, focusing at, because there are the 2 nuclear powers in the subcontinent, and if things get wrong, there could be a tragic outcome of this confrontation.
What message do you have to Delhi?
If I have to give them a message, is that we are neighbors. We have problems. We have some very serious problems with each other, especially over Kashmir. But we should be solving our problems through negotiations. We have had negotiations in the past, but we don't have those negotiations mechanism anymore between our 2 countries. That they have abandoned the treaty which was negotiated way back in 1960 by the World Bank. This Sindh Water, Accord. So they have abandoned that, which is a very serious breakdown between the 2 countries. The relation between the 2 countries is a serious breakdown. It is underwritten by the World Bank. This treaty, they cannot abandon this treaty just like that. This is a serious blow to the relationship between the 2 countries. I think India should not be resorting to such measures. This will escalate the situation, and there's a possibility that there is a outbreak of all-out war, which will have serious repercussions not only for our region, for our countries, but rest of the world also.
And
we will reach. We should refrain from that. We should take measures to stop any situation from flaring up to a level which will be irreversible.
And what message do you have to Donald Trump? Does he have a role to play in this and the United States?
Definitely, he leads the world power, the sole world power, and he has been talking to different parties in different flashpoints all over the world. And this is also a flashpoint in this, which has 2 nuclear powers daggers drawn with each other. I think the attention of the world should be drawn to this situation. And if the world power can intervene and there's some sort of sanity can be brought to this situation, it will be good. Otherwise, if there is an initiative by India, we'll respond in kind. We will not have any option. Have absolutely no option.